start with Shoto. Guys, if I can pray for silence, if you wouldn't mind, because we've got an online community. Sarah, would you mind? We just got to crack on now. So we're live linking to China again, but that is really so we talked to you about one of the things that we're often asked to do by international federations. In fact, used to be the first thing is, can you introduce us to sponsors? And the answer used to be no. And the reason why it was no is that we felt it would detract away from all the other services that we felt would provide, more of which later on. So what I'm going to do is introduce to you Shoto, who we have a formal partnership with now around sponsorship. And I think you need to ask yourself, what is the relevance for you, albeit that this is aimed at how we could support international federations, because think relationships, think how you could get involved, because this is not only about Chinese, Japanese companies being involved in this initiative, it could be you. So Shoto, I think we'll hand over to you to introduce yourself and run a few slides, then I'll ask you a couple of questions at the end, okay?
Thank you, Dennis. So first of all, it's my pleasure to join the summit from China, from Shanghai, actually. And thank you for inviting me to share this moment with you. It's a shame that I cannot join with you in person physically this year, but I look forward to see you in person in near future. So I hear the word networking Dennis mentioned several times. I really envy you guys can mingle together, networking. But we're living in the pandemic or post-pandemic time, and we also have to get used to the new form of work. And Sponsor Force actually was created and founded at this new kind of era, which we believe that you don't have to do face-to-face meeting 1,000 times to close sponsorship deals. So can I move to the next slide? Yes, so we believe Sponsor Force is a better way for sponsorship. Next page, please. My brief bio is I worked for the federations or rights holders in the beginning. I worked for the Japan Professional League in the planning department. Basically, it's helping the league to develop better sponsorship package or better media right packages. How to create more value for the sponsors. And I work as the FIFA office head in China for the FIFA Women's World Cup. When I delivered commercial deals for FIFA in China, helping FIFA basically to deliver all the rights between the contract, FIFA and their sponsors. And I was appointed as the marketing director of the China FA for a while. And then I created a company called Oceans. The Oceans Marketing was the first ever public company in China for sports marketing, and we have done many things for brands. So after working in the federations for about 7 years, I started working for the brands. So basically, we worked for many brands, helping them to reach the football, basketball, running, tennis, figure skating, all kinds of sports. And ever since 2019, I focused more on Sponsor Force, this new project, which I'm going to touch base about. Next page, please. So we have done a survey in 2001, about the same time now, last summer, and we got replies from 121 sports IP holders and 67 brands. So about how difficult and their pain points, when they struggle in sponsorship, because we all know sponsor is important revenue for rights holders, and also an important format of spending money as promotion for brands. But it's also very difficult for them to reach agreement. So next page, please. So we found out that the most trouble both sides have, for example, for the rights holders, most of them will tell us how to increase access to new sponsors. We have great products, we have great platforms, but how can we reach more sponsors? We talk to many. We have a team working on sponsorship sales, but how can we talk to more? And those are the most kind of questions we are being asked. And those are let's say, the biggest concern of the rights holders. The survey was conducted in China, but I believe that is a common kind of concern or common difficult for all rights holders. Well, the biggest issue for the brands in China also appear to be how to find IP assets, how to find sports assets, how to find the rights holders. We want to talk to them directly. We want to reach them. We don't know who are available. We don't know, for example, this federation had a contract with my competitor, but we don't know when this contract is running out, and we don't know if we will be in a position to be able to even talk to them. So we have many interesting points, but I think the biggest issues for both parties is actually how to reach each other, how to find each other, how to network in the other way. And also for the rights holders, we find most of them are also asking in this era of big data, how then can they define the fans? For example, football, basketball, or equestrian or tennis in China, in Japan, and India, they might have different fan groups. But how can they define? How do they find different fans in order to have a better promotion, in order to reach out to the brand who see the fans as their target audience? Next page, please. So that's why we created Sponsor Force. And Sponsor Force, we have the basic motto, the basic theory is to connect sports rights holders and brands. And we want to do that. And we have important partners like MEI, who you know well. And we have one of shareholders, Focus Media, is the biggest media company in China, has 4,000 brands in China using their media platform every year. So there is one of our founding shareholders. And we also have Miaozhen System, is the big data company helping us to help brands when they have to spend money in sports, helping them to find out what kind of the data, what kind of fans or different sports has. And we also have actually some shareholders from Japan, who's a big agency, a marketing agency in Japan. So we also have regions in Japan. Next page, please. So how it works. So how do we support you? For now, we can see the left part is the sports rights holders. Basically, we do two things for you. One is you can register the platform, you can register the marketplace, you can publish your inventories of sponsorship, and all this will be included in the IP cloud we created. And we are aiming to have 3,000 units of different sponsor inventories in the IP cloud by the end of this year. We have about 500 now, but we're growing very fast. And the second thing is we actually will be publishing the requirements from different brands all the time. So the brands can search the IP cloud at different price range, the territory, or different sports. But they also can publish their requirements about what kind of thing they are looking for, what kind of IPs they're looking for, what kind of budget they have. And as a member, you will receive the requirements instantly, and you can choose to apply to this opportunity to get to know this brands or not. So we already have important partners like La Liga, FC Bayern, Man City, China Football Association, WTA Final, Formula E, etc. Big sports IPs, and we have many more sports rights holders joining us at this stage. And the brands we have is like Chinese brands or international brands in China. But also we are building our teams in Europe, in Japan, and India now. So very soon you will see more different rights holders from all over the world and more different brands from all over the world on the platform. Next page, please. And for the next step, it's we don't have enough time. I think we have very short time today, so I won't go too deep. But if you're interested, please let us know and tell us how we can help and get in touch. And if you wanted to one-on-one workshop, we can facilitate that, and we can do that in a more separate meetings. We can do a workshop explaining how we do and how we can help you, and how you can use the platform. And you can get on board easily by registering, by becoming a member of the platform, which is free for now, and get it done. We are getting deals done these days, and we hope you can join the big family of Sponsor Force, which soon to be an international platform. So leverage the platform for you to look for sponsors. Next page, please. So that's all my slides, and you can drop us an email for more information.
Great, Shota. Thank you so much for the clarity. Stay online, please, Shota. Guido, obviously you deal with data in what you do. With that, do you want to offer any? Putting you on the spot, is there any comments or questions you want to raise at all? If so, we can get you a microphone. If you rather me.
Well, thanks, Dennis. Yeah, my name is Guido Bouw. I work for Grace Note Sports. We're a Nielsen company. So I'm actually looking for Nielsen Sports colleagues who are better equipped to answer this question than I am. I guess they're not here yet. They'll be here later. But yeah, what Nielsen Sports does is that they can value, certain sponsor entities, from what the value it actually brings into the marketplace. And they have a lot of information on audiences, who is actually watching sports, who is engaged with sports, what devices are being used, which could lead to information on where and what platforms you use for your sponsor activation, and which audiences are easier to reach using a certain device or platform over another. So I think that is vital also for international federations to know, specifically because they have their own audiences, they have their own platforms. Where are they strong? Where are they weak? How can they tap into these growing audiences, and how can they monetize the platforms and the events that they have? Because that is, what Shota also said, one of the things that sometimes sports properties don't know too much about is their own strength.
Absolutely right, yeah.
Which they need to get clear about in order to make a good sponsor proposition to bring in the brands to sponsor. And that's the same really for the events. The host cities also need to know, what can they bring to the table for a sponsor to entice them to really spend money on that property.
Yeah, very good. I'm glad. I hope you don't mind me putting you on the spot, because I didn't warn you I was going to make the. Shota, do you want to comment back on that before I open it up to other people?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very good comment. Thank you very much. We actually also work with Nielsen from time to time in China, and I think the issue we have now, for example, in China, is we have great properties in China, like Chinese Basketball Association or NBA China. They all have many sponsors, but they come to us these days saying that, we have challenges from our existing partners. They are asking us to give them more information about what's going on social media, what is the trend of the buzz, what are people talking about, and how we can calculate the media value of sponsorship. In the past, you can calculate from TV broadcasting or online streaming, But now, because it's everywhere, it's on TikTok, it's on social media in China. So how we can really get all this fragmented information together to come up with a ROI report and to prove our value to the sponsors. So this is actually becoming very key, because the brand in China is also kind of getting more concerned about the return, because in the past, sports investments, sports sponsorship is more about passion, what you like, or connections, who do you know. Those are still important, I think. But also for the brand, it's important to have transparent, but also reports built on big data. So when we try to close deals for sponsorship between brands and the rights holders, we found that we also have to tackle that kind of data point of view. Just adding to your...
Yeah, no, it's very helpful. I mean, I'm going to keep this debate going a little bit because Guido was very kind to point in the direction of the host cities. One of the things I hope you are going to pick up during this summit is one of my particular hobby horses. I have quite a few of them, but one of them is what I call city activation, is that people will focus on the event itself and they will invest in that. And yet the city, and something that Joel and I have been talking about a lot, is you've got to activate the city. If you're going to get that return on investment from, in this world is hard dollar that's going in. I think what you've heard from Guido and from yourself, Shoto, you need, frankly, the evidence of it. You've got to have the approaches that assess the value of it, how it can be communicated, measured, whatever. But you will increasingly hear the 60 international federations that are going to be coming in and out, that they're also looking for the city to be activated. Okay? Because if they want to reach a bigger fan base and get people more involved in their sport and have the societal changes, running the actual event itself is, frankly, my language, not theirs, not good enough. And let me give you an example. When there were crises going on in Brazil during the Football World Cup, and we spent 6 years in Brazil, not living there exclusively, I said to people, please remember, exaggeration, as always, to make the point, you can run, sorry, to our friend from Qatar, where this doesn't apply. I used to say in Brazil, remember, you can run a Football World Cup in university campuses, okay? Put a big security fence around the pitch, get the TV lights at the right light quality and broadcast it, you've got a Football World Cup, right? Grass, pitch, ball, players, changing rooms, fence around it, Football World Cup, right? No drama. It can happen. It's not quite that easy in Qatar, as we know. But actually, to get an event really, the city really involved in everything that's going on is something I'm really going to make a plea that the host cities really understand, because the feds are looking for it, because they know a competition can run. I was in India during the Commonwealth, I'll come to you, etc. I was in India for the Commonwealth Games. It was beyond a crisis, okay? The doors were being screwed on during the opening ceremony, whatever. The paint was still wet. But we always said the games will always happen. Games will always happen. I've never known in history a games that hasn't happened. Storms, lightning, strikes, they happen. But the rest of it is what people remember. What was it like coming out the airport, on the transport system, in the shops? Did I have to queue to buy an ice cream, a beer, a burger, go to the toilets? Could I get out quickly? Could I get back to my hotel? Did my family enjoy it while they were in the city? Did we see the cultural parts of the city, not just the match? Okay, so watch out for that. And so really the world that Guido's talked about, which is very much around the data side, and what Shoto was saying about, and I think, Guido, you made a comment, you might not understand the value of the properties that you've got. That is a really, really important point. So I'll just hand over to Joel to make a quick question, and I'll just check if there's any other comments from you guys.
Thanks, Dennis. More of a comment than a question, really. I think there's another perspective to this. There is a commercial relationship with sponsors, but the level of subvention that a lot of major events are asking cities for requires a different set of metrics. So, the £700+ million that will be invested in hosting the Commonwealth Games, you know, we have to make the case socially, economically, environmentally, and talk about the impact on our citizens and our communities and the people who essentially will be welcoming the world. And I think that's a kind of almost we talk about the iceberg, you know, under the water that we've not quite got to yet in measuring social, economic and environmental impact, which will be increasingly important for host cities like ours going forwards.
Yep, good point. Anybody else wish to comment? No? Okay, so, oh yes, Sarah? In fact, you get a microphone coming, I don't need a sprint.
Thanks. Just testing out the system with microphones and so on and so forth. Good afternoon, everybody. I just would like to add to the excellent input that we already had to say that from a federation's perspective, where I worked for 27 years, now we're increasingly see that the activation of the city is very important to the entire legacy of the project, and that isn't a post-event aspect only, but I can give you the example from the Beijing 2022 Games, and I think that's very relevant because we're connected with China and had the introduction also from IDG, who were very heavily involved in winter sports, which is the legacy was already in place 2 years beforehand. The activation to have winter sports integrated into all of the schools, to have new resorts built, and to really build up that knowledge, that understanding, and the enthusiasm for winter sports and what it could do for the entire communities, and create around 3 main platforms. One was the competitiveness of China within winter sports, which is a completely new area for them effectively in many aspects of it. The second one was from a tourism perspective, but also the health and welfare of the population, so that there was real activity during the winter as opposed to using devices and staying inside when it's cold, and actually understanding that there are opportunities to do great sport. And the third one was from the commercial aspect, to build up an entire industry around it. Because if there's one thing that China does exceptionally well, it's building up industries. So Dennis knows this very, very well, and I think we haven't got any other Chinese representatives here in person, but I'd be delighted to share with you some examples over these days, along with many of your other countries who are doing similar things, and I think increasingly so. And that then extends the value of the sponsorship
100%.
Significantly.
Thank you, Sarah. And actually, that neatly comes to the programme, so we didn't practice that earlier on, I promise you. But you'll be hearing from Stephen Joy shortly from the Gold Coast about their motivations for hosting a sports event, which is pretty multi-dimensional, which he'll talk to you about. And we're very lucky, and please be back in the room for it later. We have Tanya Braga from the International Olympic Committee, who's the head of Legacy. So she's joining us for the last session before the drinks today. And she and I have spent many, many hours talking about legacy. Small word, potentially big meaning, often badly used.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. My name is Camille Smulders from the Orange Sports Forum. We are here with 10 companies from the Netherlands. I have a question to our Chinese friend. In China, we work also together with a big company from Shanghai, Dow Pierlin, and we created together with the Johan Cruyff Foundation so-called V-Parks. So it's opened the first one in Chengdu 2 or 3 weeks ago. How do you see the development of healthy living and the China plan towards 2030 about healthy living? How see you the development between vitality, healthy living, sports and activation within cities? Did you hear my question?
Thank you. Yeah. So I repeat your question as because the line was not very clear, but let me confirm your question. So you were asking about the healthy living and the sports, how sports can be included or involved in people's life in China, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's a really good question, and I personally believe that sports will be much bigger 10 years later. Let's say by 2030, it will be a much bigger industry. The reason is why? Because like I was born in 1970s. In my age, our parents only sent us to like English lesson or mathematics lessons, extra lessons. So we don't really, our parents don't really send us to any other classes. But the ones who were born in 80s or 90s, their parents started to send them to dance class or music class, piano. You see many Chinese kids are playing really piano or violin. They must be born in 1980s or 90s. But in after 2000, year 2000, we see many more parents actually are sending their kids to like karate or archery, horse riding, etc. So we see many more parents are sending their kids to sports lessons or sports classes, because sports before, like 30 years before in China, it was like a pure elite thing. It's nothing to do. It has nothing to do with our personal life. It's more about the elite athletes getting a medal for the country, for the pride of the country. But it evolved. It changed over the time, especially last 10 years, last 20 years. I think Beijing Olympics played a big part. The Winter Olympics, of course, even bigger. But important changes. The normal family in China starting seeing sports as important way of living. So that's why I believe that by the year of 2030, we'll see many more young generation enjoy sports, not only for competing, but also enjoying sports as a lifestyle. So and we also see many shopping malls in China these days, because shopping malls in China are facing fierce competition with e-commerce platforms like Tmall, Alibaba, JD.com, etc. So many shopping malls were struggling because the shops just don't sell, and people just don't go to the shop anymore. Even they go to the shop, below the line physical shop, so compare the price and buy things online. So that's what's happening. So we see many shopping malls started to change the model. Instead of having all these big shops, many are changing it to experiencing the sports experience, like virtual skiing, virtual archery, virtual car racing, etc. We see many shopping malls are changing their facilities also to reflecting the needs of sports in the lifestyle. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh, yep, you got a thumbs up, Shoto, so thank you very much indeed for that. Shoto, we're out of time, but the whole purpose of this program is to have some tempo. The bottom line is I hope Shoto's got you thinking with the elaborations that came from the audience, and thank you for all of those. And the logic is that you should be thinking and following up rather than answering all the questions. So Shoto, at that point, we'll say goodbye, and we'll catch up with you again very soon. And picking up on the Chengdu point, on one of my last but one visits there, because it's thank you for the polite people. Thank you, Shoto. And I think it was on my last but one trip to Chengdu, which is our base, probably our base in China. I was taken out to see the 40+ brand new football pitches, grass, that have been cut into the hillside for a football training camp. So